highest percentage of citizens in prison in the developed world. Since Richard Nixon announced the war on drugs in 1971, the number of Americans in prison has increased by 700%. Statistics show that African Americans are incarcerated at a much higher rate than the general population. Furthermore, far more African Americans are arrested for drug use, particularly marijuana possession, than other groups, even though the rate of drug use among the black population is the same as whites. We have a number of states that permit the medical use of marijuana. Other states, including the District of Columbia and Maryland, have decriminalized possession of small amounts of marijuana. And 2 states, Colorado and Washington, have legalized marijuana. Where do you stand on changing marijuana laws in Virginia? How far would you go and why? We'll start with Yasmin. I'll give you a minute on this one.
Thank you. I would legalize marijuana, and the reason why is, as our Steve Moderator has mentioned, its disparate effect on communities of color. The usage of marijuana is about the same between whites and African Americans, and as our moderator has stated, the number of African Americans that are incarcerated because of harassment, because of usage or possession is far greater, and for that reason I would legalize.
I would also legalize marijuana. One of the things that I believe is that research into the effects of marijuana has been suppressed for many years because it has been illegal, and so we really don't know some of the effects of marijuana use. And even if there are harms, these are individual harms, and so to imprison people for nonviolent crimes that largely affect themselves and their family, and we don't know whether it affects their productivity and other things. I think that that's unnecessary, and it has a greater impact on our society in more ways than just the direct crime or the direct criminal. It affects families, it affects our society, it affects budgets that we use to build these huge prisons. So I think that we live in a system, and marijuana use or legalization or criminalization is just part of a system that has very, very broad repercussions. And until it's legalized and we can do research and fully understand, we don't know the direct impacts.
When we used to prosecute white-collar crime at the Justice Department, one thing that always bothered me is that frequently the folks that were engaged in this stuff had graduated from some of the best colleges in the United States, and they had used their mind to steal in some way. They had had so many benefits given to them, but they decided to use that in the wrong way, and we would prosecute them, and because it was white-collar crime, they might go to jail for a year or a year and a half. And it was a federal penitentiary. It wasn't so hard. It really bothered me because it struck me as so unfair that some kid who gets busted for marijuana would spend more time in prison. And that has always bothered me, so I would strongly support decriminalizing it because I think it makes our system more just and fair.
So on the issue of marijuana legalization, I'm a wait-and-see person. Washington and Colorado have both recently taken this step, and I think we should have conversations, study the effects, and decide what is the right path for the Commonwealth. I don't see this as an immediate issue such as Medicaid expansion, and I think it's something that we can look at in 2 or 3 years down the line. I do fully support decriminalization. I think 700% increase is just completely unacceptable. And as other folks up here have talked about, the disparity between minorities and white Americans is unacceptable. I see the benefits of decriminalizing and making marijuana legal economically and the criminal justice system, but I'm not quite ready to jump in with both feet. I want to study it and see what the lessons are to learn from Colorado and Washington.
So knowing that I'm dealing with the Virginia General Assembly, I'd definitely be in favor of pushing a decriminalization with the hopes of moving toward a legalization. I definitely would want to make sure that we're permitting the medical use of marijuana, since you've seen the effects that it's had on anxiety and other such illnesses, especially for glaucoma and such. But I'd definitely be very much of an advocate for criminal justice reform, making sure that we have effective rehabilitation programs for those who have suffered from long-term drug use, who are trying to integrate back into society. Great organizations like OAR and Arlington have done great work to that regards. And the restoration of voting rights for not just non-violent felons, but all felons in society. So, thank you.
I'm opposed to the legalization of marijuana. When my kids don't brush their teeth, I don't beat them with a belt. I tell them they need to brush their teeth. So I do believe in decriminalization of it. That said, if we have different proportions of our populations going to jail for the same reason, that is not a drug problem, that is a race problem. That is a societal problem, that is a justice problem. 23% of Virginia's prison residents or prison citizens have mental health issues. Why aren't we addressing those? Because what do many people do when they have mental health issues? They self-treat with alcohol, with drugs, and then the cycle continues. It's a justice issue, it's a prison issue, it's a punitive issue, but it's not just a drug issue. And that simplifies it and takes the eye, yet again, off the ball of what the real cause of this is. It's a healthcare issue.
I said in response to an earlier question that context can be everything. Politics is sometimes the art of the possible. It's hard for me to see legalization of marijuana in Virginia anytime soon. Having said that, I think it was President Clinton who referred to Colorado and California as laboratories of democracy. I'm not sure about California, but in any event, it will be interesting to see how it works there, and that may well move the needle, even in Virginia eventually. But it seems to me the first step is decriminalization, and I would support that. And that's tied up with reform, sentencing reform, which I'll address in a moment. Turns out, a lot of people don't know that there actually is a medicinal marijuana statute already in existence in Virginia, but it has some problems with it so that doctors really won't use it. I understand there's going to be an effort to address that in the next General Assembly, and I intend to support that. There's been a lot of sentencing reform at the federal level. We need to do it here at the state level.